Hi, Wilson. Hi there, Wilson. It's Martin and Nick here, and we're going to do an assessment of this property 176 Bowness Road. So let's get into it. And the first thing we're going to do is talk about the property condition, and then we'll get into demographics, capital growth, and also we're going to talk about property history because there's some interesting things to note there, but we'll deal with all that in a moment. Very first thing, we'll just rattle through this. So the property is in relatively good condition, and you can see that it's been fairly recently renovated. So, and it's vacant possession. You can tell it's renovated fairly recently. Just little things like the new kitchen and so on. Now there is a virtual tour which we're going to go through in a minute. Carpets all look good. Overall, it's in nice condition. Let's just have a look at the virtual tour. What's that, Martin?
Yeah. Also, we can compare what it was before in 2018 and 2018 is the same. I didn't see any changes.
Yeah, so this all looks tidy. I assume it's been rented out, and so I did look at the Viewer videos earlier, and there seemed to be no issues with double glazing or cracks in the walls or anything like that. So these are important points because, you know, if you get a heavy cracking in a wall or some issue like that, it's a problem. But I haven't seen any of that here. And we have a pleasant conservatory and a nice, decently sized backyard. So all this is nice.
Yeah, and without extension is 70 meters square, with extension is 7 more. So
yeah, so it's a reasonable size.
Yeah.
And here we have a small lavatory. Very nice. Bifold doors, and then we have a bedroom, reasonably sized. We've got an old chimney covered up, and modern paneled modern doors, basically. Bathroom all looks fine. So basically condition is fine in this property. It needs minimal amount of work. Now I'll go through the videos very quickly. I'll kind of fast forward them because there's no point in dwelling upon them. There's a photograph, there's the garden. Garden looks all right, not waterlogged. And just looking at the brickwork, everything looks okay there. There isn't any major issue. You can see in the middle above the door, there's been some mortar at some point. But overall, it looks okay. So that it doesn't seem to be any issues which I would be concerned about. The roof looks okay as well. And the fascia board or the edging of the roof looks fine. So I would say overall, that's good. There are a couple of missing tiles. So you can see one there, but nothing major, which is good. And we've already had a look through all this, but I'm just going to run through it again. It looks good. Now, not every property does look good, I've got to tell you. But this one looks fine. There's a little bit of paper, wallpaper, which needs to be put back on properly. Essentially it needs very minor redecorating. So that's that. And then if we look at I think we have one more video, which we'll just quickly whiz through. The units are good. So this is a modern fuse board, modern gas unit. That's all good. I assume that's the boiler in the corner. And he's just kind of sweeping around. Looks all good under the sink. And you'll be able to look at all of this, obviously. You just go to the sales particulars if you want to have a really good snoop around, as it were. But based on, so I looked through all of this in detail earlier, by the way. So that's why I'm just kind of rattling through it, because we've got other stuff we want to talk about with the property. All right, so that's that. Now, if we look at the demographics and capital growth, this area is exceptional. And I'll just get into the demographics first, and then we'll kind of work our way back. And that looks like a new build block of a new build estate. Interesting. So this area has a lot of ex-social housing or ex-social rented, but that's not really a problem in itself. It's just a kind of lower middle class area, I would say. So it's not a prime area. The demographics are okay, but it's always encouraging when you see new build, because that means that somebody has banked a lot of money or bet a lot of money that the estate's going to work and that people will want to live there and pay enough money to live there. Now, in respect to crime, it's a pretty low crime area, which is great. So some areas aren't. And it's very easy to think, oh, every area is fine. But like here, for example, there's a bit of an issue in this little patch, and so on. So the main point is that this patch is doing very nicely. So that's encouraging. Now, let's talk about the capital growth. And one of the reasons this area has been so strong in growth is because there's a lot of social housing here. And so properties would have been sold off cheaply and then remarketed at a huge profit. And I suspect that's what's happened in this case with this property. So Martin is going to go into all of that in a minute, but the capital growth here is really quite huge. So just to explain the numbers, the idea is that I'm very interested in inflation adjusted capital growth, because that tells us the real growth in real terms. So in other words, if you bought in 2013, if you exclude the effect of inflation, then prices, your wealth would have grown 73% with this property. And for example, it was sold, the median house price was 74,000 in 2013, and now the median house price is somewhere around 155. So a huge gain. Nominally, over 100%, but once you factor in inflation, 73%. So I'm just explaining this because I don't think we've done a review for you before. Capital growth is a huge deal and really, 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 really important to pay attention to, obviously. So the next thing is, let's just have a look at the capital growth for the area, relatively speaking. I'm going to use the postcode district, and it's the same data, but I've just organized it in a slightly different way. And we can see here that this overall postcode district has grown massively. So 14%, which makes it one of the biggest growers in the country. It did have a huge growth spurt in the last property cycle. Now, as I always say in these videos, markets go in cycles. How do I know that? Well, because we can see here that over the last 150 years, when we look at house price affordability, we see 9 different peaks in the market, 8 different peaks in the market. Now we're up to number 9. And overall, what's happening is we're in the last phase. So this would be the boom phase of the market where everything goes a little bit crazy. So now is a good time to buy before you get into what they call the winner's curse, which is where people buy too late and they get into trouble because there'll be a crash at some point. So that's what's going on there. So in respect to capital growth in this area, I don't predict it going up by another 33%. And I think this is the effect of people selling privately, social housing, basically. They're selling off social housing. That's skewing the numbers a bit. But I do predict that this property will probably grow by nominally at least by another 30%. So if we say 20% inflation, 5% a year, 4 years, before the time I predict the market will peak, and add on another 15% on top of that, we're up to around 35%. And therefore, assuming this property sells for, say, £160,000 for the sake of discussion, then we can say that this should top out at just a touch over 200, maybe 210, 215,000, that kind of thing. So that's that situation. And one thing, there's the floor plan. It's a reasonably modestly sized house. Martin, over to you on EPC footage, sales history, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. So first I will go for location. As Nick said, the location is really nice. It's already have extension, huge garden, parking on the street. Yeah, so it's next to schools. You have a lot of new builds. So based on that, it's really nice. It's not really far from Middleton Center. It's like 15 minutes walking. And if you want to go to Manchester City Center, the time will 18 minutes because we have like trains go directly. So.
So it's relatively quick. And let's talk about the sales history on this property, because you flagged something up that was interesting.
The property sold 2018, 75,000. I think this is, I don't know why it's happened so low. And the condition looked really similar. So basically the owner didn't date anything.
It could have been a semi-private transaction. In other words, the seller sold it on to a family member or somebody like that at a big discount. That's probably what happened, I would imagine. I mean, all of this can be revealed, but in the end, it's kind of academic because, you know, the price is the price.
It's freehold. It's the year of build. It's between 1950 and 1966.
And just Wilson, just to say, the benefit of a property built from, say, broadly 1930 onwards is that it's damp. It's been built properly. It doesn't have damp issues. It'll be solidly built with no fundamental problems, which is a good thing.
Also the EPC is D, the score is 57, so I don't see any issues with that. The wall is quite cavity, has no insulation, but that's okay. But the roof is very good, so it's full double glaze. So heating control maybe need to improve, but this was made 3-4 years ago. So 4 years ago, the EPC, so maybe it's already improved. This is before the last transaction happened, 2018.
Okay.
And the floor plan is really nice. It's enough large. Have huge kitchen, huge dining room, and plus it have two nice size of bedrooms. Bathroom is also good size. Plus it have a small storage. Plus it have like a small building in the garden, like for storage. So yeah.
And can we have a look at the coal mining map? Oh, you got the plot map. Well, let's have a look at that firstly. That's helpful.
Yeah. Here is the plot map. So the size is enough good size. And I will just stop sharing, until I open the coal map. So
we did have a look at this. So Wilson, just to explain how this works. So in certain areas in the north of England, there has been lots of coal mining. And that's all fine, except where you get an old mine shaft or something similar, and you have the risk of instability on the.
No.
Basically, you have the risk of subsidence on the property.
Property is here.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. So there's no risk of subsidence due to mining, which is important. It's just a small check that we always do now.
Yeah, and I will go for comparables. I think this property they're asking a little bit more than they should because it's only 2 bedrooms, but it's nice size. So I guess that's why they're asking that much money. And comparable, this is a new build, so we cannot compare. Like all this build is 145. It's new build.
And what's new build 2-bed going to be?
180. All buildings you can see 120, but it's not in really good condition.
Oops.
This is 1 year ago. 10. So I think the real price of this property is I will not pay more than the asking price.
Okay.
Just because they're asking too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Well,
my
it's obviously there's obviously okay. So let's just finish up.
and if I just
Oh yeah, the rental yield. I'm sorry, I'm just
No.
slightly distracted. Someone was at the door, but I think it's all in hand.
No, just to comparable, like 3 bedrooms, you can see it's the same price, 150, 180, but this new builds. Like 3 bedrooms in 161, and they asking 150 for 2 bedrooms. I think they are a little bit too much optimistic. I think 3 bedrooms is that price.
Okay.
So,
and if we look at
and the rent will be around 700. And on the asking price 150, the rent will be around 5.6 point. So that's why I think they asking that, because they understand that there is not a lot of work. It's quite good property, and it will give you at least 5.5, 5.6 yield. So
okay,
that's why.
very good. Well, so in summary then, just from a capital growth point of view, the numbers are quite deceptive with this area. So it looks like capital growth is crazy, but it's okay. It's not brilliant. It's just that a lot of people have sold up on social housing and cashed in. And also it's benefiting from this kind of overspill effect in Manchester, where people are looking for value in basically worse and worse areas. It's just how that's working. So it's going to be okay for growth. I just don't think. I just think this seller is, as Martin says, they're asking too much. They're just being a bit aggressive on price. It's fine. It's just one of those things. So it's just all about knowing how much you're prepared to offer and make the offer. And if it's accepted, great. If not, move on. So what's your suggested offer amount?
Yeah, we also speak with Wilson. He asking like the more than the asking price, like not acceptable. I mean, why them asking that much? Because there is not really a same type of property for compare in this area. So that's a little bit like, because this is end of terrace house, and terrace houses are selling for let's say 120, 130. And for this one they asking a lot.
Okay, so what do you think is an acceptable offer, and what is a acceptable, reasonable, acceptable top offer, and what kind of yields are we looking at?
I think I said I will not pay one more. They're asking like 151, just 1K above the asking price, just to see if they need to secure. But more than that, it's just that the property doesn't work.
Okay, and what's the yield?
5.6.
Okay, so yield is all right. It doesn't need much renovation, so it's ready to rent more or less. So that's good.
Yeah, correct. And the location is nice, it's quiet, and so on. Yeah. So that's why I think the owner is a little bit optimistic, because the location is really nice.
Very good. Well, Wilson, I hope that helps, and thank you very much.